Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast. I am your host and Foreclosure Deals Coach, Donnie Corum, and this is the show where we talk about the mindset, tactics, and tools to be a successful foreclosure investor. The show, as always, is sponsored by the Foreclosure Profit System. It's not as always, we have other sponsors, but if you're looking to get started in finding, figuring, funding, fixing, and flipping a deal, you need to look no further than the Foreclosure Profit System. It's going to help you to get started in that. We have an incredible show for you today. I'm going to give the backstory on the importance of project management featuring our senior project manager, Steven. You're going to love this guy, the message that he brings, and how much resources he provides to our clients every single day to help them to do deals. Stay tuned. This is going to be a great show. Hello, and welcome back to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast. Once again, I'm your host and Foreclosure Deals Coach, Donnie Corum. This is a show where we discuss the mindset, tactics, and tools of becoming a successful foreclosure investor with a foreclosure profit system that helps common investors just like you to find, figure, fund, fix, and flip a deal. If you're looking to get started doing your first deal, check out foreclosureprofitsystem.com. I am so excited. I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to bring our guest to the show today. I have none other than Steve Richardson on stage with us today. What is going on, Steve? How is life, man?
What's up, sir? Life is great. I've got 74 degrees in February here in Florida. And just enjoying life.
So we come to the show and rub it in that you're warmer and happier than I am right now. So that's why you're on.
Absolutely.
Right,
I feed off your jealous tears. Yes, I do.
Yeah, right. We're dropping Steve. Thanks a lot. See you later. No, let's get into it. Yeah, man. Well, listen, I wanted to introduce you to the whole clientele, because a lot of people, because I do a lot of talking, right? I'm a talker, and I know you got to deal with my meetings every single week, but people kind of think that I'm doing this whole show by myself. So I wanted to have you on the show as a senior project manager of the Foreclosure Profit System, because I really wanted people to know the level of professionalism that we bring beyond my amazingness, but the other things that we can offer to clients on the show. So I do want to start with the backstory, but first of all, let's go into a little bit to what you're doing, how you operate as a senior project manager of the Foreclosure Profit System. Gives people some background on what your job really entails.
Great. I simply drive it home, if I were to surmise it. So you guys, you, Donnie, you help the client get funded. You tee it up, and I'd bring her home, and then we give it off to our realtor who puts it in the hole, and we make money. So a lot of the work is already started prior to us buying the house. And we're already getting into some work. We're analyzing, we're doing the rehabs, doing some preliminary estimations. But once we close on that first deal with the client, then I take over and I just make sure we efficiently, on time, on budget, without any issues as much as possible. It's a construction job, so things happen as smoothly as possible. Just get us to the finish line, get us to market, get it to where it's a desirable, marketable asset that the market wants, and we get it offloaded, and we're on to the next one. So that's my job. It's just to go from there to there.
I love that. And one of the things I love that you said is that you're on time and on budget. So you're not Congress. You can't spend your print money randomly. When did that change? No, I'm giving you crap. I want to tell the origin story, because you got to go back to how this whole thing started. I flipped 400 houses in my career, right? We had some banger years where we did 40 flips in 2020, 47 flips in 21, 45 flips in 22, on track to do 60 flips that year. But I had this secret weapon I didn't tell a lot of people about. My wife. Laura was my project manager, and she was out there talking to the construction company, doing basically your gig, right? She was managing the project, getting it to the finish line. And let me tell you, Laura was amazing at it. She had a very great gift for getting this thing done, but she's not really a people person. Right. So when things started to get edgy, as they inevitably did, a lot of people didn't want to be around Laura when she was unpleasant. She's my wife, so firing her became a real issue. I couldn't let her go because I was going to mean I was sleeping on the couch. So now I'm in this. My wife is my product manager. I can't scale this thing because I don't know that much about construction at this point. To be honest with you, Steve, I don't know that much about construction now, right? But I think the person running it who got it handled, but the more deals we brought in, the harder her job got. So goes without saying that over time she got a little pissed off, right? So anyway,
bless your heart. Bless your heart.
Right? I mean, you work with your wife a little bit. You know how this goes, right? It's a struggle working with a spouse, right?
Yes. Bless both of your hearts on that, because it's not easy. And I will say that I think one of the values I bring is I used to be the contractor. I used to be the sub. I used to wait for payday and put in a lot of. I used to work for the investor before I was the investor. Right. And so I have spent years of my life working, putting the value to the asset. And then also, dealing with payroll. So, hey, I got guys I need to pay. I need to keep this money coming. So, they show up Monday so they can work on your house. So I think that gives me a huge advantage of coming from that, because I walk a line. I work for the clients. I work for the clients that work with us. And my overall goal is that we're on time. We're following the plan, and we're maximizing profitability.
Yes.
This is it.
Period. Right, so going back to the origin story, because that's where I was, right? I had my wife obviously watching my back, so I'm not worried about overspending or things like that. As a matter of fact, Laura was incredible about staying on budget consistently. But when we kind of broke up, in a sense, we weren't going to work together anymore because I had to make a choice: stay married or stay in this business together. We opted for stay married, which was the best choice to make at the time, right? But now I'm in this thing where I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to introduce clients who are coming into the system as we find them a deal. I'm going to introduce them to the GC. And I had my operations manager that Laura was working with, who he started his own general contracting firm, right? And so we were just going to move it over to them. I was thinking, well, that problem's solved, right? I've got this guy who could run the projects and things are going to go well. Boy, was I wrong, Steve, because right out of the gate, as you well know, as soon as I started having them talk directly to general contractor, the budgets went from $30,000 to $40,000 to $50,000 to $60,000 almost instantaneously, right? Because general contractors think with their wallets, right? They think about how
we all do. We all do.
We all do, right? So I couldn't blame him for doing that, but it was damaging the model. So I brought in one product manager who was local. I'm thinking they could help out, but they didn't offer your level of experience. And then you and I, through however we met, I think we were trying to figure out how we interacted. When we first got together, you were already remote. You live remotely with your family in an RV. You were mentioning you're in Florida now. So you've location freedom, which is a big thing that we offer to our clients, but also you're able to manage this flip completely remotely. Can you tell us a little bit more, because people worry about that? How can you be a perfect manager on a property when you're located in an entirely different state from where that property is? Walk me through your process.
Right. Sure. Yeah. So process, it comes from experience, and we can get into that here in a bit. But just to answer that question, process is it's almost second nature to me because I've been doing it so long. I almost take for granted some of these key points in my approach because it's just second nature. But it's really, the experience and skill set, the systems in place, the communications, the setting expectations with my assistant and the team, the guys who are actually on the project, and the client, the investor itself. So setting expectations properly. And then the secret weapon is organization and my assistant. So as part of our process, I've got a local assistant who's boots on the ground. She right now is my eyes and ears. She's great. She's a former realtor, so she's familiar with getting properties market ready. She's actually one of the perfect type for what we're doing. And what I can't see through pictures or through our Matterport file or things like that, that the contractors might send, she can see. So whoever you're working with, whether it's remote or locally, if you're not a detail oriented person and you kind of gloss over things, or you tend to miss things, especially when it comes to finish work or construction or details of a house, then work with somebody who is, right? Try and find that, whether that is your spouse or you got a partner or you know a realtor friend or somebody who has eagle eyes, who can spot imperfections, spot defects, spot issues. Yes. Obviously somebody with a little bit of expertise or experience in home remodeling, because there's a lot of things new people don't even know to think about. And what you don't know will cost you.
Absolutely. And guys, remember, we're live right now. So if you're watching this right now, I know there's a couple of you watching, please jump into the comments. If you've got any questions for Steve about the construction project management process, etc., please ask him. It's a great opportunity to pick his brain. But I love a lot of what you said there. You need the boots on ground. You've got one project coordinator. You said assistant, but official terms. We have a project coordinator who's boots on ground in every market that we're operating in. And since you're local, right, you can now manage processes all over the country because you have that local eyes and ears. Currently, we're only doing deals in Colorado, and Jill, your PC here, has been a godsend for sure. But we've got Sean down in the Pueblo market. We're doing deals down there, and we're looking to find a project coordinator in the Phoenix, Arizona market, all of which will report to you as you guide your team and construction crews through the process of getting a flip done. Talk to me about the construction estimation process. You said there was a lot of due diligence that was taking place prior to owning the property. I'm going to bring up the deliverables specifically that we give each of the clients, but tell me about how you view the deliverables and what you're working on prior to ownership to make sure this deal goes smoothly.
Yeah. So once we get a lead, and that is a seller who's motivated, who has a property, and they have a real estate problem. We solve problems. And usually the seller has a real estate or financial problem. We get in on that. And once we visit that, I've got my project coordinator and the contractor next on the list to go and view it. And so I'm on the phone. By that time, we likely have a Matterport file. So Sean will be in there. He'll capture this place in a 3D rendering, which is fantastic. Take measurements. And look and do a walkthrough from anywhere in the world, which is great.
Yes.
Once we have that, I'm on the phone with them. We do a preliminary estimate. We're not measuring windows. We're not measuring. We're not getting into the nitty gritty details because we don't know if we have this project yet. Right. So there's a preliminary estimation process that goes on.
Yes.
And it's all data. Right. So square foot for equals data, right? And so it's how many are we replacing, not the measurements, but how many doors. So we just go in and we create a scope of work right there within about 45 minutes of our first walkthrough. Okay. And so we know what we're going to do. Are we going to remove a wall? Are we going to move this? Are we going to replace the kitchen cabinets? Do we need to replace the roof? How's the water tank? So we just go through this checklist, right? And we just fill out the form. Mm-hmm. And out of that pops a material cost. And then based upon what we discussed, what we're going to do, what we're going to replace, what we're going to remove or add, then the contractor knows his labor side and we add the two together. And now we have a rehab budget. Yep. Pretty simple, little math.
It really is just math. And people get emotional about this stage because there's so much going on and it has to be done at speed. Because if it's a good deal, there are other competitors looking at the deal as well. So we're trying to put together a construction estimate, which I got to imagine the normal retail world typically takes a week to 10 days. We're trying to get that done in 2 to 3 days, right? Sometimes 1 to 2 days. And you're under a lot of pressure under the gun when we're in that evaluation phase to make sure you can get your numbers dialed in. How do you get accurate numbers at speed? What are you employing to make sure that your numbers are what you want them to be, or at least what we want to present to the client that's accurate?
Great questions. We use historical data for that, right? How much did this last project cost? How many gallons of paint did we purchase per square foot of living space, right? And so we use old historical data to create new estimating models, and we're refining those every project, from project to project. That's getting updated and refined.
Yeah.
And it's simple math. So we plug in how many square feet it is, and we the spreadsheet pops out the calculation. How many
Yeah, and then
gallons?
we're putting that into a rehab budget, which I mean, that's so critical. I joked about the Congress thing, but I think a lot of flippers, especially when talking to GCs are like, well, whatever it takes. I want a pretty house. We can't operate under an unlimited checkbook, right? We have to go in with, this is what we're expecting it to cost. We're leaving a 10% contingency in case there's some cost overruns, right? But we have to live within that budget because that's how we determine our profitability. If you just give the GC a blank check, he spends as much as he wants to spend, right? So we have to actually go, this is how much we're going to spend and limit it to that. If we got to cut some corners or shave some stuff off of different parts of the budget to stay within that budget, that's what you have to do. And you're kind of moving that needle around constantly to make sure it fits, right?
Right. Yeah. And we prefer to just over budget. I think the kiss of death for investors, whether they're experienced or you're new, this is your first deal, your second deal, your third deal. The kiss of death is one, being undercapitalized, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you are scraping by, you barely have enough funds to take this thing to market and dispose of it properly. That's the kiss of death. So we definitely want to make sure we overestimate things. So we overestimate how much the rehab is going to cost by a safe padding. Sometimes we call it oops margin. And when we go to the lender, we request more than what we feel we need, because we don't want to run into a situation. Let's say, we discover something while we're doing demolition and it's going to cost another $5,000-$10,000. It's a huge deal. It doesn't kill the profitability of the deal. It just reduces the profitability, but it's something that has to get addressed. And we want to at least make sure that the lender has appropriated enough funds for us to also cover that, instead of us having to go find, the client investor having to go find an additional $5,000. So capitalization is important. Overestimating part of it. It keeps us nice, safe margin of cost.
I love that. And I want to point out, just because people don't often understand, that when you buy a deal with our system, you're getting a lender escrow for the repair amount, right? So if we say it's a $50,000 remodeling budget, the client's not coming up with those funds anyway. The lender is, right? They're just coming up with the down payment money, but then the client gets draws for the repairs as they take place. And to your point about undercapitalization, we got to make sure the rehab budget is strong enough to make sure it can cover obviously what we knew we were going to do, but also leave a little left over for the things we might find later on. But in either case, it's coming out of the lender's pocket, not the client's pocket for that, because we want to be able to predict how much money they should bring to the table. I want to bring up the presentation I do when people are getting into the system. And one of the things that people come to me with, Steve, is the lack of construction knowledge is their mindset. Do you see that a lot with clients who are coming to you and they just don't know that much about construction?
Absolutely. And just the general business model of lender. Do I go to a bank? Am I buying off the MLS? Like a lot of new clients and investors I've worked with over the last decade, a lot of them, it's their first time and they're unfamiliar territory, and we just kind of hold their hand and guide them through that entire process. But absolutely. Lack of construction mindset. Now, if you have that, if you are a remodeler or a construction guy, you do have a leg up. And now there's another gap of ignorance we need to help you fulfill and get in, increase.
Yeah, and that's why the system's designed to find out where you need the most help. But if you've got a construction background, that's great. But most people don't. I certainly didn't when I got started. And now over the years, I've got my general contractor's license, but I still rely on a professional project manager to manage the day-to-day. So I think that's important. The other issue we find that people come to is that labor and materials are too expensive. And that's true, right? How are you dealing with the high cost of labor right now and keeping our clients' costs down to something palatable?
It's a great question. So over the years, it's something I've just realized or come in tune with over the years in the experience. It's really there's a lot of professionals in the marketplace that simply undervalue their own time and expertise, right? And you guys can think about it yourself, like whether it's going to the grocery store or working with professionals in your own life. Sometimes you just find somebody who's amazing at their job and they don't charge that much. And you're just like, that is great value. And you think to yourself, they could charge twice as much and I'd still pay them. I'm not going to tell them this,
right? But
that's the value that they bring to my life. And that's what we look for in the construction industry as well. Painter, whether it's a remodeler, an all-around guy or a trim carpenter, whatever, It's working with professionals who, compared to the marketplace, just undervalue their own time and experience. And it's not like a massive take advantage of it. It's just, I ask them, hey, how much is this going to cost me? They get back with me on price. And if it lines up with what we're looking for, or if it's close and we can negotiate and come to an agreement, then great. It's a win-win situation.
Well, and I love that. And some of it's to repeat business. Like these guys are undervaluing themselves because they don't want to go shop for the next deal, right? And with us, because we can take them from deal to deal, they're giving us a great price. But you also mentioned something earlier, historical data. We know what this is supposed to cost because we've bought this service before on a different property.
Right.
And I think that gives us a unique advantage over the marketplace because the guy comes in monumentally higher, the layman investor doesn't know that painting's not supposed to be that much, right? So the fact that you've gotten it done cheaper earlier allows us to really define our pricing. Go ahead.
Yeah. Not only that, the over a decade long I spent in the trenches, I've personally sprayed over 10,000 gallons of paint.
Sure.
Through my spray rig. I've personally laid over 10,000 square feet of flooring, whether that's LVP, glue down wood floor, or ceramic tile, doesn't matter, personally. So with that, all of that knowledge and experience, I know what I've charged clients, my own customers. I know what it takes to get the job done. I know how much time it realistically should take. And so with contractors, sometimes it's like the mechanic, the mechanics like pulls a fast one on you, and it's not like a lack of trust, but they kind of upsell or they take advantage of your ignorance.
That's right.
It's like, oh, you're going to need a new catalytic converter or whatever. And you're like, I don't know what that is. I trust you. You know what I mean? Do I go get a second opinion? Whatever. And so since I've done that for over a decade, them trying to pull a fast one on me when they get back with me with a really high price. For instance, we have a roof repair. Right now, we've got a really great project under contract. Clients are going to make great money on this thing. It was a really smooth deal. We got the repair request back from the buyer, right? Home inspector came and did their thing, repair request. And one of the things was they wanted a flashing to divert water off the roof away from the chimney, so water doesn't go down the chimney and damage the siding. Mm-hmm. Simple stuff. It's a 4-foot strip of flashing that gets secured to the roof to move water out of the way. Simple stuff. I'm getting these silly high estimates because it's a one-off thing. I totally get it. A roofer needs to be insured because he's getting on a roof, and to do it and to cover it with warranty, we're dealing with potential leaks and warranties and litigation. They want to cover their so it's an expensive repair. Even though I know the mechanics of what it's actually going to take to do it. And so they're not going to be able to pull that kind of fast. I was like, look, just get up there, get your ladder, get a tube of sealant and 4 feet of flashing and get this thing done. It's over with that. We don't need to spend all this money on it. Right. So that's just one of the unique things I bring is just all that years of experience of knowing exactly what it takes to make this repair, to make this look better, to fix this. If something goes wrong, or we run into something, I'll get the call and text message and the breakdown. We'll strategize on what's the best approach to do it. Some of that's a little bit of engineering, and some of that's just straight up experience on knowing what will work and will pass and is safe, and will continue to make it marketable.
Well, and again, you're living on a budget, right? So it's like we've got a limit to what we can spend on the product overall. And this is tough for the lay consumer who A, has a day job, B, doesn't know roof flashing from roof shingles, right? As you're describing this, I'm going, I don't know what needs to get done on this roof. And you explained it to me, I still don't quite get it, right? But the person who's doing a flip with the foreclosure profit system doesn't need to worry about any of this stuff, right? You're handling it, you're managing it, you're negotiating it, you're getting the prices down, you know what needs to be done. And your fee is, you're not inexpensive, but you're the best. And I want to give my clients the best option to people who can negotiate this, because when we look at what your fee is versus the amount of savings in time and labor and materials, you pay for yourself several times over on each and every single deal. So, that's the second part of the tactics that we use here is the remodeling construction project management team, which Steve is the head of, right? But we also were getting a volume pricing discount from the contractors on labor. But tell me a little bit more about the materials discount you're getting with the Home Depot Pro Elite account and the stuff that we're
Yeah. So, my family and I, we bleed orange. I mean, my girls are on first name basis with the pro reps at our local Home
I
Depot.
love that. I love that.
You know what I mean? And a couple of years ago, maybe just a year and a half ago, Home Depot rolled out an outside sales rep program for qualifying pro accounts. It's not just, you can't just go up and get one. You have to do a certain amount of volume, certain amount of time with the company, and things like that, and apply. So we did that. I found out about it months ago. I applied, got straight in, and now I have a concierge that helps us. So we're able to save money, not only just in my time and efficiency. So I'm not having to focus so much on supply chain logistics. I just offset that to my Home Depot rep, and the discounts we're getting. I mean, my Home Depot rep has general manager store level pricing control. And he said he can get me down to as low, if I really need it, let's say we're over budget or we're close to budget or whatever, or something happens, he can get me 5% above cost.
That's great. And that works out like 30 to 35% sometimes off of what they pay retail.
Yeah. The before model, Donnie, was, okay, we build a quote, we'll send it to the pro account at Home Depot. He'll send it into the bid room, right? So the bid room, and
that's what we
did. The bid room spits it out. You have to at least do a $2,000. So if it's under $2,000 order, you don't even get the bid room benefit. And it spit it in the computer. It spits out a discount. Sometimes you get a discount. Sometimes you don't. And it's like, sorry, we got nothing. You try again tomorrow. I was like, I don't have time to try again tomorrow.
Right, exactly.
That was the old model, right? Now, and we would save anywhere between 20 and 40%. Now I get at least 20% off, up to 60% off. So it's even more powerful and more savings than the older model of just sending it to the bid room. And this accounts for small numbers as well. If it's a $200 order, it'll come back at $150. Let's go.
That's incredible. And you look at, if we're going to spend, you got to figure our average remodel is what, $40,000 to $50,000. Materials are going to make up $20,000 to $25,000 of that, and your discounts ranging from 20 to 40% off of what they paying retail. Again, the project management fee is factored in the total rehab budget, but that's a savings alone per deal of like $5,000 to $6,000 per deal on the materials alone. So I tell people this all the time, and I brag on us all the time, but the harsh reality is it's impossible, and I mean impossible, to do a fix and flip as cost effectively as you can with the foreclosure profit system because of the discounts in both the labor and the materials that we've set up, because of the agent commission that we've discounted, because of the cheaper amount of funding that we've got. There's just no way to do a deal more cost effectively than the system. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think when you ask any investor, flipping investor who's been flipping for a number of years, whether they're a veteran or they're been doing it for a couple of years, you ask them, is flipping a passive business venture? And they all will say, absolutely not. It is a active full-time job.
Yes.
If you have one project and you're a professional, you work full-time and you do a flipping project, say goodbye to your nights and weekends. It's over. Right. And I hope to God that you're wise enough that you're not going to lose your shirt. The majority of investors doing their first flip are going to either lose money or lose a lot of time. And it's you can't get that time back. That's even more expensive than the money.
That's right.
And so what we're doing is we're actually making flipping passive.
Yep, semi-passive, right? They're involved.
The only thing you need to do as a client investor, if you don't want to be involved at all, as little as possible, which we have a couple of clients who are just like, make my money, make money. Yep. That's great. We'll do that. And all it reduces you down to is doing payroll once a week into the subs and the contractors. That is it. Paperwork. That's it.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And people can make a profit on an average of $25,000 for a deal they've never seen physically, right? That you've never seen physically, right? You're in another state, so your product manager and the client have never seen it, but your boots on ground and project coordination is making sure quality control is solid. You've got the relationship with the contractors, the discount at Home Depot to keep it cost effective. You just can't beat this model. And I know, of course, I'm biased, but it's hard to imagine flipping at all without utilizing this system. It just doesn't make sense. The final piece of this is the project management software that we use, BuildExact. And what I love about BuildExact is a wealth of things and how it keeps you on track and able to tell the client where we're at in the project. But also, you were telling me that it connects with the Home Depot pricing matrix, right? So you guys can see any price changes going on with your pricing model and put our discount into BuildExact to really monitor what the parts are going to cost, right?
Correct. And it gives us a really good preliminary idea of our material costs, right? The exterior doors, the appliance package, whatever. Absolutely.
I love that. So the combination is when people buy a project, okay, we got our 5-step process to find, figure, fund, fix, and flip a deal. You are the top of the fix funnel, right? So when people get to that, and when I started this, Steve, I got to tell you, I was really convinced I could just connect people with general contractors and life would be fine. But the reality is the general contractors speak a very specific language that's largely founded in bullshit. And I apologize for cussing on the show, but it's just fact, right? So you speak a language that's different. You talk to the clients, talk them through the problems, but you're also talking to the contractors. How do you balance that communication with two different languages between complete neophytes to flipping and general contractors being the conduit in between? Walk me through your thought process on that.
Absolutely. So, again, it just goes back to my experience as that guy needing to make payroll. So I sympathize with the contractor because I've walked his shoes for 1,000 miles.
Right.
At the same time, I've been the investor and the owner, and I am sometimes I am the investor and the owner. And so I control the purse and, they work for me. So with our clients, I work for the client specifically, and regardless of what's going on with the contractor or disputes or anything like that, my allegiance is to the client because you're the one hiring me, not the contractor, right? So I walk this fine line into making sure I'm doing my performance, and we're on point, making sure the asset is moving forward, the project's moving forward, we're maintaining profitability, and we're going to move it quickly, and having that conversation and holding your hand through that process, whether you need hand holding or not, or if you just want weekly reports and, hey, give me a quick update, or if you need some legitimate hand holding, like, oh, I'm worried and, we're spending all this money. I will catch you if you fall down that thing, because it's not my first time. I've worked with clients on their own homes. So it comes from that as well. So it's a little bit of both. Working with a client, remodeling their actual home that they live in and tearing a huge hole in their kitchen while they're living there is it's a sensitive subject, and it requires, from all that time of being able to really just nurture the client, the homeowner, through that process of destroying their house before we rebuild it into beauty. It takes finesse. And so I've got a lot of experience with that. And I think coupling the both are what really might be the secret sauce, because at the end of the day, these workers, whether it's the plumber or the painter or the GC, they are adding value to your asset. They are getting up every morning to work for you. And so I recognize that, and I realize that, and I do want to keep the cash flow coming because they have bills to pay. They have life challenges. One of my plumbers went through a life challenge a couple of months ago with issues, death in the family and a newborn, pregnancy issues. And it's hard. I mean, this is, we work with people. This is real life stuff, guys. Yes. And at the same time, they're working to show up every day to add value to your wealth and your prosperity. And I'm the buffer in between. So if you don't have experience with them, that I'm the conduit between the two. If you do have a lot of experience with them, great. I'll just make it more passive for you.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love that. Conduit's the best way to describe your role, because that's where I was when I was in my nightmare. We titled the show, Find My Way Out of the Nightmare, the importance of your job. But that's where I was. Like, I was in this nightmare where I had to talk to contractors. And in absence of me talking to contractors, my wife had to talk to contractors. And I remember one time this painter, right, it's like, hey, we're going to finish the job a few days late. We're running behind. And I was like, okay, cool. Laura, being the product manager, hey, did you tell Laura about that? Like, well, we figured you're married, so like you could just tell her for us. I'm like, Oh no, bro. There's
Yeah.
no way. I'm not. No, I'm not doing that. Not a
You're
chance.
nicer, Donnie. We'd rather tell you the bad news.
That's right. Right. I go, no, you call Laura and tell her, like, you know what? We'll just get it done on time. I go, yeah, I bet you will. Because the
That's
relationship that you've created with these guys does not allow for the BS that contractors tend to spew into this relationship. And I know, like you said, they've got life, they've got family issues. I'm not trying to be insensitive to that fact, but this conduit role is so important because you prevent that from spilling over into cost and time delays to the
Right.
client because you're the interface
Right.
between the client and the contractor. This is just an
Yeah.
important thing.
And I'll add to that. Just because you're I've had an honest, wonderfully honest contractor did 3 projects with us, and at the end of the 3rd project, the overall process just wasn't a team level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're not moving forward with that group anymore. I still trust them. They still do good enough work.
Right.
Just the process, how we get to the end product was
Didn't
not
work.
at the level that's going to work for me or the clients.
That's right.
And so we more or less let them go unofficially. They're not on the blacklist. We do have a blacklist. Absolutely. That
Sure.
we don't talk to them. They are
Yeah,
X'd out,
you're
right?
dead to me. You're
Yeah,
dead to us now.
you definitely don't want to be on the blacklist, but
Right.
a back burner or the B team list, the backup list is where they would move to. And that's just part of the game. And it's, we won't hesitate to fire somebody, get rid of somebody, and find somebody else. Absolutely. Because our overall mission is to the client.
That's who the client. It's funny you bring that up because a lot of clients can't do that. A lot of clients are just, they're nice people, right? And they don't understand that being a nice person in this industry is a liability, right? So sometimes the contractors are life's choices and stuff's going on, and sometimes they're just lazy. Some contractors are just not going to produce up to par. So you have to be comfortable with letting people go. And a lot of people go through their whole lives avoiding conflict. Right. And so when they come into this flipping world, they want to try to avoid conflict here. That can cost you big time. But having a project manager interface you, Steve, on these projects simplifies that. So they don't ever interface with the contractors. The project gets done on schedule, on budget, on time. We get a better result, more profit to the client because you work for the client as an advocate to make sure the deal's going done. This is incredible. And I love that we have you on the team, Steve. We're going to wrap this up here. Any parting thoughts on the project management system, the foreclosure profit system that a lot of people are salivating about right now to get access to you? But what parting words would you leave them about construction and the process that we follow?
Yeah. My first deal was a disaster, and I was still a remodeler. Okay.
Right.
And if you feel that getting into real estate is going to be an avenue for you, you've got some extra cash, you've got some credit, or you've got some equity you want to tap into, whatever, that you want to get better performance out of that money, and you feel real estate is going to be that value, the best thing you can do is to pay for the experience in a team.
Yes.
What we have here is what other flipping professionals who do this full-time professionally, you go on Facebook, you can find them all over the socials, right? They have a team in place that took them years and years and heartache and money and risk
like us
and sleepless nights to build that team. We're simply offering you that team. So it's a shortcut from year 1 to year 10. No, you can just get this done and accessed year 1, your first deal, by hiring the right team. And so over my time, looking back of my first deal, if I spent that money on the team, the mentorship, instead of the deal itself, it would be a different story altogether. And almost every investor professional will tell you is to invest your money on the team and the people around you who know more than you.
Absolutely. That's great parting thought. Steve, thank you so much for all you do for the team, for the clients. The advancement we've made in the last couple of months with you and the team has been breathtaking. We owe a wealth of gratitude to you, sir. It was a rough road to get there, but you've definitely smoothed things out. We're so excited to have you. And listen, guys, this is your opportunity as well. If you want to bring Steve on as your team project manager, you just got to head out to foreclosureprofitsystem.com. They'll get you started. Steve, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next one. But guys, as it comes down to it, people, just like he said, are looking to do this at a high scale. They just haven't figured out how to assemble the team. You could spend years trying to figure that out, like Steve said, or you can invest in the foreclosure profit system by going to foreclosureprofitsystem.com, getting started in finding, figuring, funding, fixing, and flipping a foreclosure deal within the next 30 days. Just click on the link there, get started. With that, this is Donnie Corum, your foreclosure deals coach. Thanking you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast, and reminding you now and always, don't buy a house, buy a deal.